Well, good evening and welcome to Restart Sailing 41. It's slightly late, a few technical issues as these things are sent to us. Joined by my colleague John Emmett. Incredibly, I think it's a week of change, isn't it, John? And a year from the first vaccine, so quite a significant week, isn't it?
Yeah, it's strange. I was saying to a lot of people, I thought December might be an interesting month. That's just when I have in my head people are thinking about Christmas, and it's the start of winter. So we've got three things in today's show. Apologies again for the delay. We had a few technical issues, but that seems to be solved now. So hopefully we'll have a really good show. We're going to obviously do our normal little COVID update, and hopefully it's not restarting sailing, but continuing sailing. We're going to have a chat with Tim, who's the RS Aero national champion in the 7-meter rig, and then as always we're finished with a tiny little bit of coaching for those people who are considering how not only to optimize their winter training, but how to have a really good and productive season next year.
Yes, so it's back to the three stages. I was thinking perhaps we would be losing the three stages, but judging by what's happening now, we're probably three stages are working quite well, particularly when you look at the right of the column or the right of the page.
Yeah, so we've got measures to prevent the spread of COVID, and it's a very easy topic to become incredibly political when you talk about banning people who are not vaccinated to do things and all this sort of thing. But without going too much into that, I think it's very important to realise that it's a range of measures. So social distancing, wearing masks, being vaccinated, washing your hands, all this stuff. It's a range of measures, and nothing at all is binary. So the thought for this show was about masks. So you have masks and you have masks. So if you look at somebody who works in the NHS or something like that, obviously they're going to be wearing full PPE and wearing, for example, an N95 mask if they're working in a COVID ward. This is absolutely essential for their protection. And coming from my point of view, as a previous life, I was a chemical engineer. I wouldn't dream of entering a room that has a hazardous aerosol without wearing a N95 mask or better. Actually, in the UK, we have FFP2 or FFP3. These are the classifications. So there's a huge difference between, say, just having a bandana or a cloth mask covering your face in terms of the protection to a N95 mask or something that's worn so tightly that you probably get little marks in your face just to show that it's got a proper seal, and this is a very important thing. So of course, this isn't really necessary when you're outside in an outside environment where there's lots of ventilation, but in crowded places or high-risk places, this is something which is very important. And you can tell with your mask if you've got a good seal if you wear glasses, because the reason your glasses fog up is where you have hot, moist air landing on the frames. So if you ever go from outside where it's cold into a hot room, you often get your glasses fogging up. And it's the same with your mask. If you don't have a good seal, then you can get the hot, wet air which is coming through your mask onto your glasses and fogging them up. So that's why you want it so tight, you have a good seal, and you can actually get little the nose part can often be clipped. So nobody particularly likes to wear masks. I don't think you would need to wear a mask when you're single-handed sailing or whatever. But it does, like over the winter, there will be some occasions that you need to. Nobody's saying it's very pleasant, but think about those doctors and nurses who maybe have to wear it all day long. So that was the top thing there. Daily cases fairly plateaued, and deaths probably on their way down or plateaued, but certainly we're going to be living with this for a long time, and Omicron will no doubt not be the last variant of note. Just speculating, we may even end up having yearly vaccinations for the most vulnerable member of societies, just like we do for the flu vaccine. And actually, personally, I've had a flu vaccine every year since I was about 20, because I know if you get flu, it's much worse symptoms than getting the flu virus, and it can completely ruin a winter championship. So there you go, a range of measures. But if we look at those deaths, obviously every death is significant. But it's not going up, and that's the main thing.
So yeah, this week new restrictions. Well, certainly in England are introduced, but I guess Scotland or Wales, no sort of difference. But
Yeah, well, I hope we're going to have a more universal approach going forward, because that was what made it quite difficult, and that was probably the topic of the first 3 shows. You'll see actually other countries that opened up later or have less vaccinations are having far more difficulties and are going into lockdowns, or lockdowns for those who are unvaccinated. So I think we're very lucky to avoid that, and I think we can still carry on chatting about sailing, and specifically winter sailing.
Yes, and I think the important thing is sailing has shown itself to be a minimal risk, isn't it? And that we can adapt to the circumstances and keep everyone fit and well, isn't it? I think is the.
Well, I always think if you're sailing a one-man boat, or a boat that's not people in your bubble, if you end up within a metre of somebody else on the race course, you've probably got other things to be worrying about.
Well, I think you've probably got a broken boat by that stage, haven't you?
Yes, yeah, something else has gone wrong.
Yes.
But yeah, the winter months are always harder for respiratory diseases, coughs, colds, flus, all these sort of things. So it's not unexpected.
Yeah.
But we are lucky with the timing of the show. We weren't that clever
Yeah.
to predict
So
the future.
we managed to get the Selden Soldiers Winter Series going. We had the Furness book Draycott Dash.
Yeah,
I think you were missing John, missing in action, winning a prize, weren't you? I think.
Yeah, I was actually at the Masters. Sorry, I'm still just about young. The Apprentice Masters. So I'm learning how to be a master. The Apprentice Masters Worlds in Barcelona, and I possibly could have got back on time on the Sunday, but it would have meant an incredibly uncomfortably early flight.
But I think we're congratulating a world champion, are we? Is that right?
Yeah, so I was really pleased to win it. I did make hard work of it on the final day. It's funny because I won it with a day to spare, and I think I probably lost a little bit of focus. It's funny, a lot of people talk about it's easy to perform when you've got the right amount of pressure, and that's going to be our little topic at the end of today's show. And be really pleased to hear Tim's thoughts, because yeah, he's a champion.
Yeah. So we had the Draycott Dash, which you say missed, but Draycott, people like Jeremy Atkins have been very good at adapting. So we had things like the drive-through registration, which they'd adapted. And I think, talking to Jeremy, I think they probably were the most active club during the sort of COVID sort of period, managing to run quite a lot of events and just basically adapting and keep going. So well done, Draycott.
They had a great presence on social media, which helped raise awareness that sailing is going on. So yeah, no, hats off to them.
Yes, and you were able to do a great video with Ben McCrane and Roger Gilbert, who managed to sort of.
It was really nice to catch up with Ben, who was the winning crew. I drove down and saw him in hired sails, and we sort of ended up reminiscing about 49er days, and I found it a bit scary how long ago that was. That I was doing an Olympic campaign myself, but yeah, really worthy winner, and it just shows, sailing is there all year round, and he's made a very good living from the last 15 years in the marine industry, and put a lot into the sport. So it was great to chat to him.
So we've got the Datchet Flower coming up, being sort of next weekend, and I think Roger and Ben are back there to keep on hopefully their lead of the series, and I think you're joining us, aren't you, John?
Yeah, my intention is to be there, and also to do a live interview. Off the top of my head, I think it's the 420 class I'm talking to with James George. That's the problem with recording these things. I can slip up.
Yeah, so James is we know James well. He's one of our regular competitors. He's now the sailing secretary for the 420 class, and the 420s are actually using Datchet as one of their sort of winter focus events, which so we had the Hadron H2s at Draycott. I think we've got the Aeros at Oxford as their winter championship. So quite a few classes choose to use these events, which makes it easy for them.
The audience, Tim is nodding his head in the background. We'll be coming in a minute.
Yeah, so that event's coming up. That's another 2-dayer with the average laps on Saturday and a big pursuit race on Sunday. A slightly different flavour on the pursuit race because it's split in two, so slightly different to your normal pursuit race. But it means the faster boats actually have some time on water, which is obviously one of the disadvantages of a pursuit race. But that works well, and Datchet are gearing up. Again, putting some COVID restrictions in, so things like online briefings, even doing an online prize giving, so just to minimise the sort of shore-based sort of activity, but still a great chance to catch up with people. All right, so time to bring our guest, isn't it?
So I have to apologise again at this. Tim did send us some video, but the technology wasn't going to let us play it, so you're just going to have to admire.
But I think a great picture of Tim there. Yes, I think that's Rutland, wasn't it, Tim?
Yeah. So can you just tell us a little bit about, first of all, your own background and the nationals, and then tell us more about the class, because it's been growing almost exponentially since it first came out. And I think for people who haven't tried it, just tell them why they should.
Yeah, so definitely. So my background is I was a terror sailor. I kind of then did a bit of fevers, and I kind of stuck with the RS line, going to the aero. There is definitely lots of reasons why I think everyone should have a go at sailing in an aero.
This is your opportunity.
Very,
This is your
very, very,
opportunity.
very friendly class. Well, that's my number one thing to say. Also, I think most people I've spoken to have really enjoyed sailing the boat. It's quite a comfortable and also comfortable boat to sail. That also powers up really well, or depowers. So it's really quite got a really good way of being able to deal with different wind ranges. So in light winds, it's got a square top batten rig, which really gets power, so that you can actually, it feels like you've got a lot of power when you're sailing in light winds. But as it gets breezy, you can crank on the kick, crank on the controls, almost blade off the whole top of the rig.
It's unusual for people to describe a hiking boat as comfortable. That's a big claim.
That is true. That is true. No, I really quite like it. I don't know if it's just my leg length, but it really it kind of, the shape of the deck fits where my knees are, so it supports it really well, which I really quite like. No, but definitely nationals this year. So we were at Hailing Islands. I think about 140 boats there.
Yeah, no, I saw it was massive.
It was a really awesome event by all. We had actually some awesome weather. I think the sun was shining, I think, every day while we were out. And yeah, it was just great to see everyone. So everyone congregating for the big event of the year. Great. On the water, off the water, everyone's really friendly. I think that's just the number one thing to take away from the aero class. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, the youth fleet has actually, it's in the last couple of years that it's really taken up. So Ben Rolf's youth program, which I think started the year before I joined, about 2014, I think, and it starts off with a few sailors, and I think the youth squads now is about 30-40 people who go to all the weekends over all the series. But it's awesome because you see all your friends every weekend going to whatever event it is. And it's great to actually have that number.
And can you just talk us a little bit about sort of the introductory weight range and the top weight range, and the sort of people who are saying it's quite hard for people sat at home looking at screens to sort of guess where you are, because it's the middle one of the rigs, isn't it, that you compete in?
Yeah. So I sailed the 7, so the middle rig, and I'd say I'm definitely on the top of the weight range of the 7. So I think the weight range of the 7 is probably 70 to 80 kilos, and probably I'd say that the middle kind of the sweet spot.
It's like that for most classes, I think.
Yeah.
The optimum tends to be in the middle, normal distribution and all that.
I think, and then there's almost like gaps, because I think the 9 you want to be 85 kilos and almost above that to really take advantage of the power. Obviously, not that it's awesome fun, whatever. I've done quite a lot of 9 sailing, and then and then the 5s, up about, I know people who are about 50-55 kilos, and all the way up to probably, I don't know what that kind of weight range, up to about 65, and then there's the middle bit.
So there's not that many gaps, and that's, I guess, the pathway for the junior sailors, if that makes sense. Is that right? The Aero 5?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you ever look at the youth squads, when I first started them, it was quite spread out, but now there's definitely a lot of youth sailors going to 5s, because of that reason. It means, well, actually, what it means is you get awesome youth sailing fleets. I think the youth nationals, I don't actually know exactly how many boats there were there. There was a massive 5 fleet, because just all these sailors there, all went down to Peyton and had a great time.
Great. And can you just tell us a little bit, fingers crossed, obviously, about next year? I mean, my personal view, and this is just my view, that 2022 is likely to be an endemic rather than a pandemic. So hopefully everything will feel much more normal. But what's the class's plans as it is at the moment?
Yeah, so I think there's lots of events planned. I know that the World Championships are happening in Oregon, I think in about June, and there is I can't tell you exactly a number. I believe there's going to be 2 big UK events. I think one that are happening this summer. I can't tell you exactly where they are right now. Well, I should be able to. But yeah.
But it's okay. People can check it out on the
Yeah.
website.
Well, I do know the Nationals are happening in Paynton, so.
Oh yeah. It's good. They're happening. May bank holiday. So they're definitely going to be an event to be at. Paynton. The youth nationals were there back in October, and they had a great time. So I'm sure it's going to be another one to be at.
Yeah. The mighty Torbay is a cracking venue, absolutely cracking venue. And do you have any thoughts for people who are currently outside of the class and how to get into the class? You know, that's people coming from double handers or from junior boats or from other classes of similar weight ranges.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of different things to look for. So, like, if you're a junior, you'll want to come up maybe up into a boat like the Aero. The youth squad training has done such a good job over the last few years. I mean, my sister and I've got lots of friends who've been part of it. So that's awesome from that point of view. But also catering for like everyone. There's started to be regional training, I think, mostly by Sammy Isaac Johnson, who's kind of offering regional open training to whoever wants. If you have an Aero, have access to an Aero, I want to improve my Aero sailing. So it's becoming more inclusive to, I want to get into it and improve my sailing, whoever you are, wherever you are.
Perfect.
But there's so many events. You look on the Aero page that are spread out all around the country. So I know I did Paperpot Open back in September, which was, we had, I think it's about 30, 40 boats. I think that's it. It was tons of boats there. And it's just awesome. These little 1 day, 2 day meetings everywhere that you can just get to if you have access to an Aero.
Perfect. Well, thanks very much for your time, and it's been really good to talk to you. Apologies once again for the lack of video. I'm sure people can look on YouTube and see pictures of arrows flying around. Do stay with us. I'm going to talk very quickly about focus, because I'm aware we didn't really start on time, but we talk about focus a lot because what people want to do is find the optimum performance. And Paul Tim's just disappeared, but he is there in the background. But you can see the level of performance here, and this is what we're aiming for. And the problem is at major championships, it's very easy to get overstressed, and this can really affect performance. So looking back at the Olympic Games, it's not unusual for everybody not to sail as well as they can, because it's very unusual circumstances. Indeed, it definitely was in Tokyo 2020 or Tokyo 2021. So people just try and sail as well as they can, because that stress makes it harder to perform. But it's also the same to a certain extent in training or events that maybe you're not so bothered about. When you're less stressed, it's actually hard to push yourself. And that's something to really think about. I know people who specifically listen to music to calm them down, maybe on a day when you've got lots of waiting around or it's a high pressure situation, and people who listen to music to pump them up. In fact, I think that's quite normal in spin classes and things like that. In the gym, people want to get fired up. So I think the focus is always about the individual, and people hopefully after a few years will know themselves and know what they need to do. But it's definitely worth thinking about. So that was today's top tip, all about focus and optimizing your performance. And that applies for any class of sailing. Oh, there we go. I was worried we'd lost Tommy's. So.
Tommy's there.
We're back to double handers. The RS 200, so keeping it all RS. That's just the way it worked. The way it worked out for the start of the year. And we will endeavour to have some absolutely lovely video next time to keep it on the background. So, Tim and Simon, thank you very much.